Hello and welcome to Greek history. And today we will be looking at a couple of issues. Mainly what I want to do is kind of stop for a moment and refocus our minds and our attention on what we are attempting to do here. The primary task and what I am hoping that you are learning is to evaluate historical development, changes that are made over a long period of time. And it is very important that we realize that history teaching, what I am trying to do in this class, is threefold. Number one, bring you historical information that you will learn and be able to pass along and use in your life. You need to learn English, and that is also a part of this, that it is a responsibility of yours to learn English and to be exposed to English teaching in this class. But it is also to prepare you for future success. You need to be able to identify, to look for changes to society, religion, culture, politics, and identify these trends and to see where they are going. Where have they been? Where are they at? And where are they going? For your career success in life, whether you are someone who is working at, let's say, Loteria or State Department store, or a professional job, you will always be asked to in some way be able to identify and understand what came before, what is happening now, and what might happen in the future based on that. So you need to be training your mind to think about the long term and how these things interact. Some questions you should be asking also: was anything that happened bound to happen? Or was it all accident and not planned? Is history determined, or is it undetermined? Is it just a series of accidents and incidents that push things along? I cannot offer any distinctive yeses or nos, definitely not in this class period. And maybe one day we will be able to have some type of class debate or discussion on determinism and Hegelian systems of understanding history, but not at this time. However, in the quizzes that you will be receiving on Tuesday, you will be asked to write down some changes and trends in paragraph answers to ensure you understand development in a historical sense. So you will be required to go back, look at videos, look at the lectures that I posted in paper form, and understand and help try to grasp how those point to historical development. Now, in some ways, this video is going to answer those questions, and you might be able to, if you pay very strong attention, it will help you answer those questions. But I'm hoping that you will also be able to do so, the majority, on your own. So we can look at Greek history through what is called the Long Deray, the long duration, the long period of development. And if you look over here to your left, you will see 1500 BC to 1150 BC was the period of Mycenae. And then we talked about the Dark Age, which was from 1150 to 750 BC. And then we have the Archaic Age, 750 to 500. Then Classical Greece, 499 to 390. And then we have Hellenistic period, 390 to about 150. Now, it's very important that you understand these ages and their approximate dates, and you will be quizzed and tested on these dates. You will be required to reproduce what these dates are. Now, if we were to simply regurgitate dates and just simply realize what those are, yes, at a basic level, you should be able to do that, and that is what I will expect you to do. However, if we are to engage in looking at development and trends through the long period of time, then we can look at it as this. So now what we see here are we've replaced the names of the ages with social developments within each age. So 1500 through 1150 BC, there is strong central government and the authoritarian state. The dominance of Mycenae itself, Pylos, and several other of the Mycenaean cultural centered states. So the cities, the citadels that controlled wide areas of the Peloponnese and Greek mainland. Then in 1150 through 750, what we see is society and government and everything else falling apart. Kaboom. So think about a building that is exploded or imploded. It just falls apart completely. And what you're left with is just a bunch of broken glass, debris, nothing remains. And slowly through the Dark Age, there was some reconstruction happening. But really what we see is that in about 750 to 500, all of this is rebuilt. Basically, imagine that the ground has been cleared and a new building is emerging in its place. And if you will allow me to keep with the analogy, let's say that as they did in the ancient world, they reused some of the broken pieces and some of the original material from that building that collapsed to build the new building. And so as they build up, you can see, okay, well, that part of the building was there before, but it was used in a different place or a different way. But society is being rebuilt. It's coming back, and it's a little bit different, but you can see some of the old mixed within it. Now from 499 to 390, we see another trend take place, and that is Greek city-state freedom is challenged and basically destroyed. Basically due to outside challenges, mainly Persia, that the time of fierce independence, which was 750 through 500, so 750 BC to 500 BC, the Greek city-states are as free and independent as they will ever be. Now in 499 through 390, that is going to be increasingly destroyed, broken down. And then finally a trend by 390 and definitely 150 is that Greek history ends, and it ends under a strong central government. So Greek history has made something of a circle. It has almost come back to exactly where it was before. It was strong, authoritarian, centralized. It broke down, was rebuilt, then broke down and rebuilt, but in its rebuilding, it went back to strong, authoritarian, centralized government. As I just said, before the Ionian Revolt and the Persian Wars, the Greek city-states were fiercely independent and only occasionally cooperated with each other on important matters. Now, as we get into the Persian Wars and look at them and the Peloponnesian War, we will see increased cooperation and increased centralization of power into the hands of fewer city-states and key people. So not only will there be fewer city-states that are independent and leading the charge basically, but we'll begin to see more people gather more power into their individual hands. And this will challenge the notion, was Athens a democracy, or was it an empire, or can you be a democratic empire? We'll talk about that later. We're also going to see in these trends a drift from literature being the basis of life and a new emphasis on philosophy. So the time that we are going to start looking at, again, Persian Wars through Peloponnesian, is a time when there were a lot of philosophers active. It wasn't just Socrates or Plato. They were the majors, but really when you get into it, there were others like Anaxagoras and Zeno, and a couple of others who were more local and more fundamental to the society. But as I had said previously, the basis of life, the basis of teaching for the people was based in Homer. And when the people began to listen more to the philosophers and to the thinkers, they began to base less of their ideals and less of their concepts on Homer and began to find it more in philosophy and ideology. And this is also a key time when we'll begin to see Athens emerge from a small remote city-state to being one of the most prominent of all Greek city-states in the Greek world. So there were over 150 city-states in Greece. And we know of 150, there were probably a couple more that we're still trying to find. Yet Athens, being one of them, will continue to emerge and actually, as it says here, so soon its intellectual, military, and government processes will eclipse the other 149 city-states in Greece to become the focal point for many peoples and thousands of years understanding of what Greece was. If you were to walk into the average American city and ask the average American person about Greek history, sooner or later, or the first thing that they will say is, oh, Athens, democracy, Athens will be the first and maybe the only thing that they know regarding Greek history and the development of democracy. While there were 149 other city-states that had some form of government that went from fully democratic, radical democratic, to totalitarian or authoritarian, such as Sparta. Many other cities also had philosophers. Many other cities had navies and armies. Many other cities had slaves and coinage and religion. Yet Athens, because of its role and what it will become during the course of the Persian Wars, has become in people's mind the essence of Greek history. And quite frankly, that is something that I am hoping that you will not make the same mistake in. I am hoping that you will be able to somehow be able to identify more city-states than just simply Athens, and maybe even more than Sparta. Okay, so the events that take place in Greece from the end of the Ionian Revolt mirror more recent historical events in relation to development of conflict between great powers. So a reason to read this, study this, and understand this is because let's understand, Mongolia is a small country between two large great powers, China and Russia. And we have the United States, which is also looking to have influence and position in Mongolia. And it's very important to understand what your role in that is and where history has put smaller countries or smaller powers in relation to these games and international politics. And as it says here, this period of history is often used in diplomatic studies, area studies, and historical studies to help guide students to understand more recent conflicts, such as the Cold War and potentially our own times right now. And this time period also introduces and is shaped by many figures still remembered today, including Leonidas, Themistocles, Xerxes, and Darius. Darius, not Darius, but Darius. All right, just real quickly, there is a movie called The 300 Spartans. One more time, The 300 Spartans. You have an assignment to go and watch this movie and to produce, send to my email, james.b@schildig.edu.mn, and send me a summary of what happens. I'm looking for some very specific instances in the movie, so just watching clips on YouTube is not sufficient. You need to go to Amazon.com or some other platform that hosts. There's Daily Motion and a couple of others that may have this movie. Please watch it, type up your paragraph, and be prepared for the test. Thank you.